Thank you for coming back this week. We are really excited to have another guest, someone that I am not familiar with. This is one of Lydia's friends, April, and we are excited to talk to her and to get to hear her story. So, Lydia, you want to tell us like your connection with April and how you two know each other?
Yeah, this is April Robertson. She's one of my really good friends, and we met through church. I have no idea how many years ago. You just were kind of within 10.
More than 10.
Yeah,
I've been married to Scott for 10, so it was a couple years before that.
Yeah, so at least 13, 14 years, I feel like now. I don't remember meeting you. You were just...
We were just there.
You're just there. Now you're just showed in my... I
think we met through Paula.
Probably. It's like somebody, I have no idea. You were just there.
Yeah.
And now you're here. And you're April, and you're part of that little group of people that I just love and trust so much. And
Lydia married me and my husband.
I did. I was
right.
Yes, I was right there. Yes, that was because I was so good. We'll talk. I'm sure we'll get to the wedding or whatever. But it's like I don't need. I'm good. I don't want a bridesmaid's dress. And I think it was just like we just want to marry us instead. It's like yeah, wear a black dress, get up there and do my thing. And that was like the fastest wedding ceremony ever. It was like 10 minutes and we were done.
Yeah, it was straight to the point.
Should I just want like, do you love him? Do you love her? Or did you marry? Yes, sir. And let's move on. So I've known April for several years now, and she has a great story of. Especially from the motherhood side. So I'm excited to get to the motherhood about some challenges that she faced as a mother and, how she kind of overcame them. And she doesn't have daughters. She has sons, but she is a mother and she is a daughter and she's a sister. So I just think we're going to enjoy talking to her and finding out more about her life and all that. So with that, April, we're going to kind of just kick this off by kind of one of our typical get started questions. And that's going to be kind of just tell us, and or just hop in here with other questions too, because I don't have that list that we don't really have in front of it. But kind of just start off telling us what was your life like growing up? What do you remember like being a kid and what your family and stuff was like? And obviously we're going to focus on the relationship. Your mother couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. Right. She had to work, and we Miss Connie was invited, but maybe down the future we'll have Miss Connie on. But just kind of tell us what your life was like growing up. And then we'll talk about your mom a little bit more.
So from 0 to 9, it was pretty normal. We grew up in a little teeny tiny Baptist church in Beaumont Place, Texas. And my grandparents started the church. My mom's mom and dad, my mama and papa were founding members of the church. We were always, seemed like every weekend, every week, we were always surrounded by cousins and aunts and uncles. We were always together. Very normal. Never felt like I was neglected or always felt a ton of love around me, especially from my mom and papa. They helped raise us quite a bit. And then when I was 9, my parents got divorced, just kind of out of nowhere for us. We didn't, my mom included, know that anything was wrong, but my dad had found who ended up being my stepmom for 30 years at work, and kind of just everything that was normal to us kind of stopped there. And a whole new, we stopped going to church. My mom was just so deeply depressed that she couldn't really function for probably about a year. So my sister and I look at it as a kind of a good thing. We really learned how to take care of ourselves. Cooking and cleaning and washing our own clothes and stuff like that, just because she was so sad. We had to kind of pick up the slack, but I think it taught us very well to take care of ourselves and how to take care of our family as adults, which we're both very good at this point. But from about that point on, it was a little bit.
How old were you and your sister? You were 9, but how was your sister?
I was 9. My sister was 7. She's 2 years younger than me.
Okay, so is it just you two?
At the time, yes.
Yeah.
He ended up having another daughter with my stepmom, who's 11 years younger than me. So she came along a couple of years after my parents divorced.
Yeah. So you were the oldest.
Yes.
So you were the oldest.
Oldest of 3 girls. So from then on, it was a series of, and it's funny because my sister and I, my middle sister, the one that's 2 years younger than me, have only really, I think, in the last couple of years, since my dad has kind of pulled another one of those, with my stepmom to another stepmom.
Oh, so
realized
three-time
yes,
three-time winners. Three-time. Okay, got it.
Current stepmom. Lydia knows this, but
Yeah.
current stepmom is a year and a half older than me, and her name is April. So that's
Whoop,
but my sister. Yeah,
let's just sit there for a minute.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, wait. So we'll go back. But your second, we're gonna hit the third one. But your second stepmom. So your relationship with her, because I, we kind of take, I think, take something from everybody. So the relationship with your second stepmom, how did that look?
In the first few years, it was very rough.
I can imagine.
She, we were old enough to understand that she was the reason for the divorce, and she had 2 kids, and my dad had 2 kids, and then they had one together. So there were a lot of it. But she was very, and I'll come back to that she was very, treated us not great. Just kind of, I felt like we were kind of a burden to her, like an extra set of kids around the house every other weekend. Wasn't very friendly to us, was very mean to our mom for absolutely no reason at all, other than she just was my dad's ex-wife. And so the first several years was pretty rough. It started to soften up a little bit when Caitlin was born, my youngest sister, because Amber and I were a very big help in raising her, because we were teenagers by the time she was old enough to kind of really be babysat. So we would watch her during the summer while they went to work and stuff. So I feel like once Caitlin was a little older, she looked at us a little bit in a better light because we were helpful to Caitlin. And probably around the time I graduated high school, so about 9 years in, is when we all kind of started hanging around each other, which includes my mom being around the both of them, because my mom and her hated each other for a number of years. They're friends today.
Yeah.
They're
good.
Friends today.
Yeah.
It's encouraging.
It's been 32 years. They could, and really when I had kids, so I had my first son when I was 27. Really, when I had started having kids, that's when everybody started really becoming a tight knit unit, because everybody wanted to be around the babies. And she is, even today, though they're divorced, she's been there since my kids were born. That's their Mimi. They still love her. They still hang out with her. Her and my mom, the boy's Nana, are friends. It took my dad doing this exact same thing to her. Met a woman at work, had an affair, divorced her, married the woman. And my mom and her had been friends for a long time. They had even worked together. They, about 6 months into the divorce, Vicky called me, my stepmom, and said, I just have been really thinking and reflecting, and I think I should apologize to your mom. And I was like, I think that's a great idea. I don't think she cares anymore at this point, but I think it's a great idea. She said, well, do you think she'll be receptive to it? I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, she doesn't care anyway, but sure, and she did. She called my mom and apologized, and I think it even made their relationship better, after 30 years.
Yeah, well, it's perspective, right? Like, you're now seeing things from the other...
from the other
side.
And I think she always knew that, but she was, she was ashamed, to admit it, because her and my mom became friends, and, but I skipped over a lot through our teenage years. My mom had after a couple of years, she had a long-term boyfriend who we kind of grew up with his sons. He had 3 boys and she had 3 girls. So they were together for about 10 years or so. He was an absolutely terrible person, but I think she didn't want to be alone. So she felt like, this is what I deserve, I guess. Somebody that's at least, he treats me terribly. He drank very heavily, gambled very, very heavily, lived either in Vegas or Louisiana. He would go out of his way to go to Vegas on every weekends. I mean, it was crazy, but she pretty much raised his kids for him for about 10 years. And so we got close to them, but during during all that time, my sister and I just saw so much. And my mom and I have talked about this very openly. We don't hide anything from each other. We have she lives here. We converted our garage into an apartment for her.
Okay.
But we saw her get treated very badly in turn, I think. Not so much my sister, but I allowed several bad relationships where I was treated terribly. Lydia could tell you today, she would be shocked to know some of the stuff that I put up with, because I'm so not that person today. I'm so don't put up with anything.
Well, I mean, for the record, your husband Scott just worships the ground you walk on. Like,
he's the sweetest, most. I've never had somebody like, he'll just stare at me sometimes, and I'm like, "What are you looking at?" And he's just like, "I just love you." And we've been together for 10 years, so I'm very, very blessed in this relationship. But he's not my first husband. He's my second husband. My first husband cheated on me a few times. I put up with it once, and I kicked him out the second time. So it just a series of things like that. I think that we were learned behaviors.
Yeah.
That I can look back on today. I was joking with my sister the other day. She sent me, referencing kind of what I just said. It was a meme of a guy looking lovingly at his wife, and she's looking back at him and saying, What? Did you want to fight? Why are you staring at me? And I said, "Oh my God, it's us." And she goes, "Yeah, Jason sent it to me. That's her husband." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know why God gave us such sweet men when we have such cold, dead hearts." And she said, "It's not our fault that we were learned not to trust men."
Yeah.
And both of us, that's totally joke, but it's true. We didn't. My dad, several times, just like when he was married to Vicky and I was 17 years old, I was taking him to get a tattoo for his 40th birthday. And he had a woman meet us there who was his mistress. And I'm like, why would you do this in front of your child? Why would you? So there's so many things. Mom's stuff was all out of hurt. She never intentionally did anything like that, but we just saw things because of her hurt that we thought were okay to put up with. And we learned what not to put up with from the other side. So anywho, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
So when you were talking about your mom, you said she, kind of spent that year after the divorce, kind of in a, depressed state or whatever. What do you think was the turning point that kind of pulled her out of that? Do you remember like anything specific, or, just kind of, is it just kind of a needed to heal?
I think she
just needed time.
I think she lost like 60 pounds, just severely depressed, crying all the time. I think she just got to a point where she got tired of sitting around, and she saw that we were tired of sitting around with her, and we wanted to get back into, a normal, the normal way of life that we used to live. And she started like getting out and about, and she, started meeting people and making new friends, and it just, life started to be a little bit, I think she was tired of being lonely.
Yeah.
And so she went out and met new people and, started trying to find some happiness again.
Yeah. And then, after she got through the second relationship, what do you think were what are the strengths that you see in your mom, or that you saw in her, maybe not in the moment, after the divorce or in the bad relationship, if that, whatever time that took? What are some of the strengths that you most admire about your mom, that you remember?
She's always, and to this day, she's 65 in December, and she has 2 jobs because she just wants to retire earlier than they think she can. So she's always hustled however she could to make sure we were taken care of. She would always be, looking for another job, working all the overtime that she could. She didn't mind working hard to make sure we were taken care of.
Yeah.
I'd say that's her biggest strength. And that absolutely transferred into Amber and I, because both of us, like Lydia can tell you, I've been a stay-at-home mom for 9 years. And this year I just decided, because of just how expensive everything is, I just decided, my husband has a great job, but I said, I want to contribute. I want to be able to help us towards all this stuff. So I went out and got a job. Like, we both have that hustle that we'll do whatever we got to do to take care of our family.
I will say this about your mom, Connie. There's a lot of similarities between your mother and my mother as far as their spirit. And I always see that your mom is very kind, and she's quiet, but she's not, like she's quiet, but
she's not quiet at all.
She has that thing. There's a very quiet spirit about her. Like Julie, like she looks similar. Your mom and mine, there's similar looks about it. So when I look at your mom, I think of my mom,
and it's someone I need to meet, right?
Yes, you need to meet Miss Connie. Absolutely,
Connie.
She's very kind and very sweet, but has a good personality. And I remember, like, to go back a little bit, like whenever we would have go to birthday parties for the boys, or for Wesley or something like that. And I remember seeing your mom there and your stepmom there, and knowing that history, having one such respect for both of them, because to be in that situation has got to be
uncomfortable,
awkward and uncomfortable, and the rest of us, heard the stories. But you see there in the fact that she's wanted to be able to be there for her family despite what happened, because you have a lot of people in the world who would not put their own stuff aside.
She's shared Mother's Day celebrations with her for since the boys were born, and only in the last 2 years since her and my dad got divorced did she say, like, okay, can we do Mother's Day without Vicky just 1 year? And I was like, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
we get it, so
she's got a good heart, though, like to put that, like I said, to put your family before those other things and make it look, and I'm sure it wasn't, but she made it look easy. She made it look all those things, and like I said, I would imagine that it wasn't.
I can't say that I would do that if Scott married someone. I'd be like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry. No. Not sorry.
So she's good people, your mama.
So now did you get married before the second divorce? So you've met your first husband, and then where did that kind of fall?
So him and Vicky I got divorced from my first husband in 2013. Him and Vicky had been together essentially. They split up one time. That's another funny thing. He married her twice. They were married from 92 to 2003, and they got divorced. Then they got back together a couple of years later. So they were only apart for a year and a half, 2 years, and they got back together, but they didn't get remarried until 2014. They were just together. And then I got divorced in 2013. So they got, end of 12, into 13. And I married Scott in 2014. And he married Vicky a couple of weeks before I married Scott. And they got divorced in 2020. So altogether, 8 years-ish.
Yeah.
And he thought, while we're in the middle of this pandemic, let me just get this started too.
Listen.
So
it was hard times.
People were bored.
My God, I wish he would have found something else to do. But something, dear Lord.
Puzzle, anything,
dear Lord. Yeah, I don't figure something out. But he just so that was 2020, and we're in 2024 now, and it took us. Caitlin, my youngest sister, they didn't speak for 2 years. Her and my dad, and they were very close. She's now gotten, which I never thought she would, and so I'll give her credit. She's actually to where she'll go to their house now and actually be around April, and she doesn't like her, but she'll tolerate her because she wants to see Dad. And Vicky, and anytime Parker has a baseball game or a band concert or whatever, everybody comes and is civil enough. But
that's a good outlook. It's civil enough.
Yeah, and because for the for the first year, Lydia knows, I've expressed my frustrations about this to her, but like everything was on me to keep the peace, which was like, I don't have enough going on. Hello.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids and a husband and a life. And, I was
That's the
like,
oldest child version, sister.
oh my
I feel
gosh.
it.
I was about to say that's the
that's
Oh
the
my
oldest
gosh.
child out there.
At
Well,
the
they
club, you
both.
earned your card. I
I
feel
was
it.
like, him and my stepmom both would go to meet for, we'll tell your dad this, we'll tell Vicky that. And I was like, oh, you're in your 60s, and you have expensive attorneys. Nobody's paying me.
You're right.
like,
If
I'll
y'all
take a
can't-
retainer though if y'all want to put me on payroll.
I told them several times, I said, all this money y'all are paying the attorneys, why don't somebody send me a check? I'm the one over here having people sign paperwork, telling people who's going to be who. My dad was telling me I needed to keep the boys away from her so she would agree to terms of the divorce. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Stop.
Nope. Kid's not a pawn.
No. And you need to, you've lost your mind. You've lost your ever-loving mind in this late life, not even midlife, this late life crisis you're having. And I'm very, she can tell you, I'm very honest with my dad. I don't pull any punches. I had many, many talks with him, and he was just relentless in his pursuit of what is now unhappiness. But, you know, what are you going to do?
Like, well, this is going on. We couldn't help ourselves. Like, we'd be hanging out. Like, I think most of these conversations happen at like Shane's house or something. And y'all met Shane a couple weeks ago, and you know, all sitting around the pool and all this stuff, and we're all just like, okay, so what happened now? Like, what's going on? You get in. She just sometimes she's got to vent it out, girl. You gotta vent it out, and
had to be
we're
with
all
my
just
girls.
dumbfounded. It's like, 'cause have we read? Like, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
Is this like we got this on repeat?
Yeah.
So,
Literally exact same pattern. Like he divorced my mom, and he, in the state of Texas, if you didn't know, when you get divorced, you legally can't marry anyone else for 31 days. He married Vicky on day 31. He married April on day 31 after his divorce from Vicky.
Okay.
And I said, Dad, why do you have to get married? Why can't you just date? And he's like, I like being married. I said, clearly you don't. But okay.
I mean, you've tried now 3-4 times.
Hello. But okay. But you know, our pastor says it the best. He's always said, lost people are doing the best they can.
Yeah.
My dad has some major abandonment issues. His father abandoned him when he was born, never really knew him. And it's been a 66-year trick of, I need affirmation, attention. Thank God we're more like mom on that, and we could care less if anybody pays us any attention. We're like, okay, just leave me alone. I'm good.
I was going to ask you, like, what strengths you think you got from Connie that's helping you navigate this new part of this, whether between the divorce and just getting, you know, that you have another stepmother who is, like I said, you're 6 years older than you. So what are those strengths of Connie's that you feel like are helping you get through this?
Just the not giving a crap. I have come to a point in my life where literally the only a person whose opinion, I discovered that during the course of this divorce, is I said this to my mom. I said, you know, I don't know. I guess it came somewhere from him leaving us when we were little, but I guess I've always kind of really sought his approval. And I said to my mom, I said, you know, which is so dumb because he's not the one that was setting an example for me. Hello, you were. And I don't know why I cared anything at all about his opinion. I should have cared more about yours. And my mom always has been, she's always thought very highly of myself and my sister. There's been no problems there at all. But I think that I got that from that. I've come to a point where I'm like, the only opinion in the world that matters to me is Jesus. I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah.
And I think she's a lot the same way. She could care less of my dad's opinion or anyone's opinion. And he really thought during this divorce, you know, she had become friends with Vicky after so many years. He really thought that she was going to side with him. And he's like, yeah, you need to not talk to her and this and that. And she goes, have you lost your mind? Like, why do you think that I would care at all what you think about anything I do or say? Like, peace, brother. You know, don't worry about it. We're good.
Isn't that an amazing point in life? Because I think
I
that
mean-
I have come into that in the last year or so where you really just,
I don't care.
okay,
Yeah. If
I do
you're
not care.
mad at me, cool. That's your problem. It's not my
No, I
problem.
didn't care. But I was telling Ariel today because she was asking me, and she said something about somebody either criticizing or saying, "Sweetie, you said I just saw this on a T-shirt. And it says I will eat water with a fork because before I care what you say."
Thank
I'm
you.
thinking
That's
that
perfect.
is, I need that T-shirt.
Yeah.
I need that plaque on my desk. It's just,
If you're not Jesus in my face telling me that
Yeah.
what my something, then I don't care.
Yeah.
You don't, but whatever.
have a good day.
Yeah.
Have a
Peace.
good freaking day.
Yeah. Just leave me
Do
alone.
you, April, do you feel that your mother and the place she's in now is a place of more peace and joy?
Oh
Now
yeah.
that she don't
She-
care?
the only
now that
thing
don't,
she-
don't
I'm
you
so
find
sorry.
that
That was my phone alarm. The
Yeah.
only thing she cares about is the grandkids.
Yeah.
My sister has a daughter who's almost 2 now, that she adopted, and we've had her since. I say we because she's ours. I babysat her for the first year of her life. She's almost 2. She'll be 2 in July. We've had her from day one. But that's the only thing my mom cares about now is that she's there for whatever the boys and Ruby are doing. She could care less about, like, that's what makes her happy is the kids.
But you said that that thing of like I really don't care came out of like the divorce and stuff. But I will say that, and to backtrack a little bit, and if you don't want to talk about your first marriage, we don't have to.
Oh no, I
but
don't care.
seeing, let's do it. But seeing the strength, one, obviously divorce is never an easy thing to do, no matter the circumstances, and even as, I use the term loosely, justified as it
Yeah.
was whenever your first husband did what he did. I remember that strength in you, and it came from a place of one just being done with the bull
Mhm.
crap.
Word.
And there was just a strength in it. There was a strength in that we're done. This is over. And I know that it was not easy, obviously, I think, for you to make that decision because, and again, a lot of, because in your relationship with Christ and what,
Yeah.
we're taught growing up and, whatever about what God would put with the divorce. But I also think God doesn't want us to be in an unhealthy, toxic place. And I
Right.
remember that strength in you. I remember whenever you called to tell me, I think we had all these conversations about you like, and we're done.
Yeah.
And the final straw
No.
is here. Like you even called our pastor. It was like,
I'm
just so
out.
you know, this is what's happening. Like even our pastor was like, you know what, you're right.
Well, yeah. Lisa, our pastor's wife, she said, "You don't even sound sad." And I'm not. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
You just get to a point, and I definitely learned that from seeing how. I mean, the first year was a little iffy, but seeing how I think I learned what not to do. Also, in that I saw how much it hurt her, and I learned, hey, I can't let. I just got to focus on the boys and not let this, take me down. And I did. I just did the same thing she did. I went out and immediately found a job, started hustling, and learning how to take care of them on my own. And then
What did your mom say when you told her that you were going to file for divorce?
she was sad for me because she didn't want me to struggle. But I had so much help from all of them, really, from her, from Vicky, from just, they were always like, if I had something I had to do, they would always, take care of the boys or whatever. Like, she was sad, of course, for me, but I think she knew also that I was at the point where I was done. So she was like, well, as long as you're happy with your decision, I'm happy with your decision. So she knew. I mean, she didn't. We come to find out many years later that he had all kinds of affairs when they were married too, that she didn't know about. So she understood.
So your
that,
dad?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So she understood.
More than just
that
Vicky?
No, I mean, while she was, yeah, absolutely. While he was,
Okay.
when he was married to my mom, like even in the very beginning when we were little bitty babies, he had all kinds of, he worked out of town a lot. So I swear I say this, it sounds like a joke. I am on 23andMe because I'm certain I'm going to have a sibling come up one day. And I hope it's a brother because I don't have any brothers. So I'm excited about that.
We'll have you back
Well, that
for part two.
happens. Yes, that happens.
Stay tuned. I'm just waiting for my brother to upload his DNA into 23andMe. It's going to happen one day. That's an ongoing joke with my mom and I. She's always like, every time I get an email that says, "Oh, you have new cousins,"
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I'll say, "Oh, I have new matches." And she'll go, "Is it a brother or a sister? Is it 50%? And I'm like, "No, it's a cousin." I'm excited at the prospect of that. I think that would be cool. But anyway.
It's a silver lining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I joke, it's an open joke with him too. And I say it all the time. I'm like, I uploaded my DNA to 23andMe, and he's like, and I said, "I'm just waiting for my sibling to pop up," and he'll slap me and sit on the arm, like, "Shut up." I'm like, I'm right.
No, I'm not wrong.
Yeah. So she saw that, she didn't want me to continue to put up with that, like she had, even without knowing she had. And so she knew
So
I was good.
your first marriage, you had 2 boys. Can we say the boys' names? You had Parker and Reed.
Mm-hmm.
And how old were you when you had your firstborn son?
27.
You're 27. What was it like for you whenever you became a mother for the first time? Like, what was what you had? Was it planned or was it like,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We were trying to get pregnant, and it took a few months. And then I found we had just bought a house, and I was packing up our apartment to move in there, and I was just so tired. I was like just drained of all energy, and I was like, "God, why am I so tired? I don't get it." And then a few days later, I was unloading stuff in my house, and I thought, you know what? I think I was supposed to start my period yesterday. So I ran and got a pregnancy test, and I was home all by myself. My mom was at a fishing trip. My husband was at work. And it sure enough comes up immediately positive, and I was absolutely thrilled because we were trying to get pregnant. And I was going to wait till she got home, but she was going to be gone for hours, so I called Mom first. Even before I called my husband, I called my mom, and I said, I didn't even play around. I said, "Are you sitting down?" And she goes, "What?" I said, "Are you sitting down?" She goes, "Well, I can," because they're on a boat fishing. And she goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong." I said, "I'm pregnant." And she was like, she starts crying. And of course, but when he was born, I was just absolutely obsessed with him. Like he was just the most beautiful child in the world. And he was so sweet and just, loved Mommy. And until Reed was born, and then he got a little ticked off. But I was obsessed with him. I wouldn't for 9 months, I wouldn't let people touch him without washing their hands. I mean, I was ridiculous. Now I could care. I'm like, here, as soon as they're born, here, have the baby. But he was just the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life. And then when he was 7 months old, I found out I was pregnant with Reed. So Reed was a surprise. Sweetest. I tell him all the time, and Parker actually caught wind of it one day. Every time when we go to bed, I'm like, "You're the best," because he's the sweetest of the 3. He's the middle child.
Kids should know who the favorite is. Let's face it, the kids should know.
He's the sweetest for sure. He's absolutely the most affectionate and the most considerate and kind. He takes care of, Wesley, my youngest, is autistic, and Reed has taken it upon himself to help the autistic kids in his school. And it's just, his teacher emailed me one day and was like, "Oh my God, I just had to tell you, he has been he just took it upon himself to tutor the autistic kids in the dyslexia class, and he's just the kindest human in the whole world, and I love him so much." I was like, "Oh, he is, you're right." So he's just the sweetest. He's going to be the sweetest husband in the world someday.
I think that's a testament to who you are. That's something that, when we have conversations, not that, when we have conversations about you, if you're not around, it's always what a good mom you are. You're just April was meant to be a mom.
Thank you.
April was meant to be a mom, and April was meant to raise her babies, and April was meant to do that. And you've always come off as a good mom. You're a stay-at-home mom, and you get your stuff
very
done.
high compliment. I mean, that was my life forever. I mean, I stayed home with Parker and Reed too when they were babies until I got divorced and had to get a job. So I enjoy momming. I enjoy being a wife. Scott and I talk about this all the time. I love cleaning the house and doing all the things and going grocery shopping and making sure everybody's settled and has like, I love that stuff. And he tells me all the time, he's like, even with me working now, I still do all this other. He tried very sweetly to clean the house for me the other day while he was off and I was at work. And I very meanly, when he told me he did, I go, why? Because I'm the one that does it. And I wasn't thinking, I just said, why? And he's like, well, I thought you would appreciate it. I said, I do. I'm very grateful. What I didn't say is, you don't do it as good as me. But that's what I was thinking. It was sweet of him we talk about it all the time, he said, all I have to do is go to work. I don't do anything else. I was like, I don't want you to do anything else. I'm good. Yeah. I got the house. I got the kids. We're good.
Yeah, Scott says that like all the time. Like we talk, whenever we're all hanging out or something, he'll talk about she just. Like I said, he worships the ground she walks on because he doesn't have to worry about anything but bringing home the bacon.
Mm-hmm.
April cooks it.
Yep.
He does everything else with it, and he just shows up. He's just there.
That's great, though. That's how I enjoy. Like God put it in me. I enjoy all of that stuff. I love cooking for people and like taking care of people. I like doing stuff for other people.
Do you think that do you think that comes from your mom, or do you think that just kind of is who you are?
I mean, somewhat. She's kind of the same way in that she will drop whatever she's doing to, if my sister or myself needs her for the kids, or if she had, if we need $1 and that's all she's got, she's gonna be the one to give it to you. Like, she's more of a sacrificial giver, where I am more of a I want to make your day kind of giver, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you've also been to
Sure.
2 or 9.
Yeah.
You're a master's doctorate in momming and killing it, I imagine.
Thank you. I definitely learned, and I think, like I said, I look at those as strengths. Learning how to do that stuff when I was little. I'm good at it as an adult. I've been doing it my whole life.
Yeah, so you do sleep.
Yeah, literally, I could do it without being conscious.
Now, let me ask you something, because I had a somewhat similar situation, not as abusive. There was not an abusive relationship, but leaving a partner, a spouse with 2 children. How old were your boys? And because I know for me, it was like there was that point where you tip over and you go, okay, I'm done. And there's I'm done because I want to respect myself enough. But then there's also that pull of I'm doing this to my kids, their dad. So kind of what was that pull like for you, and what was that I mean, I get when there's drastic situations, it's a little, it's easier to go, I'm back.
Yeah.
But you're raising boys. Like, and to me, that's always the lesson of I'm teaching them to be a man, and I don't want them to act like this for sure,
Yeah. And so they were so little, they were 2 and 3. So they really didn't have a whole lot of an idea of what was going on, probably until I met Scott like a year after the divorce, because they were 3 and 4. And then this dude comes around and literally, can't talk. Reed literally said to Scott, "Don't touch my mom." He was 3. They still talk about that today because they're good buddies now, because they're 14 and 15.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was they were so little that they didn't. I know most single moms, it's tougher because you might not have all the help that I had, but I had so much help from my parents that I really wasn't worried about it, because they were with us literally while I was married, and even when I was getting divorced. They were with us literally all the time at our house, like a couple of nights a week for hanging out, dinner. Every weekend the boys were hanging out with them, and so for them, not a whole lot changed. It was only really a big change for me. It was a culture shock for them having to go to daycare instead of me being home with them. But thankfully that only lasted for a few months, because ex-husband's sister-in-law, who was wonderful. I love her still to this day. Actually started watching them for me, and I trusted her more than anybody. So she was
Yeah.
literally born to be a mom. So at that point, she didn't have kids yet. So
Yeah.
she loved my boys just as much as having her own. So it was nice having somebody like that. So I really, unlike a lot of single moms, I had a lot of help. So I wasn't, and because they were so little, we just tried to explain it to them the best that we could, that, you know, mommy and daddy are both going to be around and both going to still be mom and dad, but we're just not going to live together anymore. And, you know, as far as how you are cared for, nothing is going to change. And they were so little, they were just like, okay, you know, whatever. They still slept in the bed with me every night for that whole year that I was up single. And so for them, thankfully, not a lot changed.
Yeah.
So that was, for me, I'm very fortunate in that.
Yeah. And in that, like, I am not saying this to disparage men at all, because I am not a feminist. I am not anything to say that men are not important, because they are so critical in our children's lives. But isn't it fantastic how women in the right circumstances come out and that community comes together? Just like you're saying, an ex-sister-in-law, and I was really lucky that my mom was at the daycare, and two of my aunts worked there. So my kids immediately went from this situation to being cared for, and my son's feet never hit the ground because he was with one of my aunts. And so when I had to put him in daycare
that's exactly how my boys were. Like, they went to their aunt, and she never put them down. So I never had to worry.
Yeah, I always feel really lucky about that, to have that community of
absolutely
girlfriends and Lydia and mom that swoop in and care for that heart whenever because I think that's what moms need, right? It's like you need your heart to be whole so you can keep doing all the things you can do. And so many times it gets crapped on and it really makes me feel for women who are out in the world and don't have that support, don't have that, even if it's just one other person to go, here, let me, for you, or pick up your trash.
I would imagine even just telling you, hey, you're doing a good job. Like, hey, your kids are happy and healthy, you're doing a good job. And I would imagine that that's very hard, because I've never been through that, but I've watched my sister go through that, and I've watched my friends go through that. And, I see the resilience in that. Like, I've seen the resilience. And like I said, watching you go through that, April, I remember seeing that strength and that thing going, she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks right now. And when that happened and all that, and we were all just like, oh, like, you don't want it to happen. I remember that thing, that feeling of, okay, they're going to make it work. It's going to be fine. And then you're like, nope, you did it again. And we're all just like, well, that chapter's over. We're moving on.
But it was worth every second of going through anything to be where I am now. Because, Scott is absolutely the love of my life. He's the person that I feel like I am meant to be with. And we are 10 years in, and we still like each other, which is nice. That doesn't happen. And we say that all the time. We're like, we still want to hang out. We still, are lovey-dovey. And Lydia can tell you, I'm not an affectionate person, generally speaking, but he has made me an affectionate person. Like, I'm very, very affectionate with him, which is just so weird even now, even though it's been 10 years for me. My whole life, I've never been affectionate, which is strange because both of my parents are very, very affectionate. Both of them are lovey, touchy, kissy. I don't know what happened where I didn't get that gene.
Yeah.
Scott has made me want to be lovey-dovey and kissy. So God was like, listen, I know that first one was a little rough. Here you go. There you go.
How did you meet? You met Scott through a friend, right? Or like a coworker or something?
His stepmom was my teacher in second grade. So I've known her literally since I was like 7. And she and I stayed in touch throughout the years. We would see each other I'm a super big Astros fan. We would see each other at Astros games for years and years and years. So we always had kept in touch. And when she married Scott's dad in 2012, they got married 2 years before we did. She a couple of months after they got married, she messaged me and asked if I was, because she knew I had been divorced and blah, blah, blah. And she said, do you, are you happy being single, or are you wanting to meet somebody? And I thought she was just making conversation. And I was like, I'm kind of good either way. I'm not unhappy being single. I'm busy with all the boys' stuff. And I said, but if I met someone, I'm open to it, whatever. And she's like, well, I have a stepson. And at the time I was 32 and he was 27. We're 4.5 years apart.
Yes,
And
we're the Cougar Club. Because Shane's 5 years older than Dawn.
Yep.
You're 5 years older than Scott. I'm 5 years older than Jared.
Yep.
We all got these young men.
And we're all besties.
Yeah, we're all besties with these young boys. I don't know if 5 years constitutes a cougar, but whatever.
Cougar enough.
Yeah.
We're in our 40s and they're in their 30s, so
yes, so we'll take it.
When she first said that, I was like, no. He said he's 20. No, ma'am. Mm-mm. And she goes, he's very mature for his age, which was a lie. He is not mature at all. I love him to death, but he'll tell you the same thing. That is a lie from the devil. I was not. He laughs when I tell this story because he's like, well, she lied to you. I said, oh, I found out real quick. But I was like, no, he's too. I said, I don't know. He's pretty young and he's never been married. He doesn't have kids, which was all positives for me, really. He didn't have any baggage. I had all the baggage. He didn't have any baggage. And I said, I don't know, let me think about it. And she goes, well, he just wanted to message you on Facebook if that's okay. I was like, it's fine, even if I'm just making a friend. Cool. And we were talking for a little while, and I don't know if you remember this, Lydia, but we went out a week later for my birthday. We went to eat at someplace in the Galleria. I can't remember what it was, but it was my 32nd birthday, I guess, or 33rd, I don't remember. And I said, I was telling y'all about him, and Shane said, well, what do you think? I said, I don't know. He's not really my type physically. I'm just not really sure. And she goes, what's your type ever done for you? I said, ooh, that's a word. So,
Shane?
Shane said that, yeah. He said, that's a word.
Sorry, first t-shirt.
Yeah. Such a word. And then, so that night when I got home, I was, still kind of on the fence about it. And, it's not many times I can count on one hand the times in my life where I have audibly heard Jesus and know that was his voice or God and know, yeah, okay, that was from you. And I said, okay, God, I don't know about, I'm not sure. I don't want to jump into something and I don't want to have any drama. I said, if you want me to give this a chance, then you give me peace about it. And I swear I heard him say yes. And I was like, well, that was fast. I was waiting for weeks of not knowing what I'm going to do. And sure enough, we had a miracle child and, a whole lot of other blessings along the way. So it's definitely worked out for the best.
I'd love to talk about Wesley's story and that as a mother, because I think when you have a child that is ill and has problems, I think as a mother, that is just another side of resilience and having to channel a strength that you probably didn't know you had.
Mm-hmm.
So you and Scott get married, and I remember you got pregnant with Wesley pretty quickly. If I remember correctly.
We got married in March. We had pregnant in, he was born in June, so September, 6 months-ish in.
Yeah.
Because, I was 5 years older than him, so I wanted to get this moving along. I was like,
if we're going to do it, we're going to do it now.
Let's do it. What I thought was a totally normal pregnancy, health, I never had any abnormal, should have been, as I come to find out, but I never had any abnormal ultrasounds or readings. His heart rate was always good. Everything was great. And what turned out to be seizures, he was having them in the womb. I didn't know that because I would feel I'm sorry, y'all. I have so many alarms on my phone. I have what would feel like he was just kicking really fast would be actually seizures happening in my womb. But I just thought, oh, he's really active, But when he was born, everything was fine at the hospital. We never saw a seizure at the hospital. We got home, like literally 12 hours after we got home, he started having seizures.
I was at the house that day.
Yeah.
I met him that day, and I came over to the house, and we met Wesley. And I don't know if Shane was it Shane with me, or was it just?
I think it was just, I don't remember. I think it was just you. I don't remember.
And I remember we just, like, I remember coming over to the house, and it was the first, and you were so sweet to let us come over. Like,
Yeah.
like the literally day you came home. And I remember holding him, and he was so beautiful, and he had this great mix of Reed and Parker and Scott and just all these little features. And then I remember you calling, like, the next day or that night that y'all had to take him to the hospital.
He started sometime that morning, probably not right after you left. He started what looked like hiccups. And I thought, but it was lasting for a long time. And I thought, this is weird. And this doesn't look like a normal hiccup. Like I don't know, something's freaking me out about it. Let's take him back to the hospital. So we did. And they did every test you could imagine, like a spinal tap, because they thought he could have picked something up at the hospital or whatever. They did all these things, and they're coming up with nothing. So they decide to send us by ambulance to the Women's Hospital of Texas, because they had just opened up their pediatric emergency unit. This was like a month before that they had opened it. Loved them to this day. They're my favorite people in the universe, because we practically lived there for 3 months. And they did a MRI and a bunch of other tests, and they found out that he had 3 major things wrong. He had heterotropia, which is neurons kind of displaced all over both sides of your brain that were extra. So since they weren't supposed to be there when they would signal each other, they would cause a seizure. And he had no corpus callosum, which is the part of your brain that connects both sides, the little middle thing. And he had almost 0 optic nerve. So this is all the problems he was having. And so when the doctor tells us that, of course, I just immediately started losing my brain. I started bawling out of control, and he let us sit with it for a little while, and he came back and he said, I just wanted to check on you. This is Dr. Salinas, who, again, one of my favorite humans in the universe. I just wanted to come check on y'all. I said, well, I see what you're saying. I hear all of this, but we're not going to accept this diagnosis. We're going to do everything we can to take care of him, but we're going to pray. And the next 3 months, it was just constant. I mean, we were never home for more than like 2 days at a time, which was really hard on the other two, because they were still pretty little. They were 5 and 7 when Wesley was born. And one day, one of the very few times we were home for a couple of days, Reed and Parker were both sitting beside me in the bed with Wesley. And Reed goes, Mom, this still breaks my heart even to think about it. He goes, Mom, do you only love Wesley now? And I was like, what are you talking about? Makes me choke up to think about it. He goes, well, because you're always with him at the hospital. You're never with us anymore. And I was like, believe me, I don't want to be at the hospital. I don't want to be away. I want to be home and healthy, and, just like y'all are. But unfortunately, this is where we are. And there would be, Scott would come up there, but he would have to go home and go to work. I was working for Sheldon ISD. I had to quit my job because nobody was going to be able to take care of him in a daycare, And I would be sitting in the hospital at night alone, and I would just be so angry and not understanding why this was happening. I was like, I just don't get it. God, why is this happening to my sweet little baby? He's a tiny little angel. He did nothing. He's innocent and beautiful and sweet, and I just don't get it. And I was so angry, and I think that's the only time I really ever experienced like depression either, like just being there all the time and no end in sight. And I just was so like at the bottom of the barrel. We were getting to that point, and I was none of the treatments in and out of the hospital for the first 3 months. It was like none of the medicines they were giving would stop him. He was having like 50 seizures a day, and it was just miserable. I didn't sleep for 3 months because I would lay my hand on his chest to see if he would, and that's how I would fall asleep, because I wanted to see if he was going to have a seizure, if he was breathing. It was just miserable.
And
And
then
then,
have him like constantly. Like there
Oh,
were
yeah.
times that, obviously watching it. I remember being at church one time and holding him. Like I remember holding him. He was very little, and he would just sit there, and he's just having seizures.
Mhm.
And I
It
cannot
was miserable.
imagine what
It was
that
miserable.
would do on his body. What
Yeah,
that would do to him, and then as a mother to see you.
it was miserable.
Feeling
And we had
helpless,
to
yeah.
get a pulse ox, because when you have a seizure, your oxygen levels go way down because you're straining to do everything. We had to get a pulse ox machine so we could see how low his oxygen would go when he would have the seizures, because he was having them so much. Fast forward to 3 months, we're at the end of our rope, and his neurologist comes in and she goes, that first, I know we've tried everything. I know y'all are frustrated, and these are wonderful, wonderful people. I love them so much. They genuinely loved my son. Like they made a whole team of special people for us, and they made this special thing where we had a free parking pass because we were there so much. I mean, they were wonderful, wonderful people. I would still go there over Texas Children's any day if I have to,
As
an
the Texas
emergency.
Women's, I know the
Yeah.
pregnancy part of it, the labor and delivery is phenomenal. Like you just can't beat
Yeah.
that.
I will
that
go there
hospital.
any day over
Yeah.
Children's. Children's turned Wesley away because Scott
Yeah.
wanted to get a second opinion. They had a seizing 3-month-old baby, and they told us to go home. They're okay with us going home. I was like, never coming here again. Just want you to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, she comes in and she's like, that first MRI that we got, he was so little. I would like to do one now and see if anything has changed that can change our course of treatment. And I was like, I'm open to whatever. Let's do it. So we go down and do an MRI. And I've learned from all this testing, you could do an MRI. If there's a radiologist available, you can have those results in about an hour. It doesn't take weeks or however long it takes when they call you. So they do the MRI, and this is at noon. So we're up in our room all day. Nobody's coming to talk to us. I'm like, this is weird. I see them doing rounds. They purposely don't come to our room to do rounds. And I'm like, what is going on? So something's worse. Something's much more worse than what we've dealt with already. And finally at 9:00 at night, Dr. Salinas comes in my room. He's like, I'm sorry that I have not been in here all day. He said, but honestly, I was just afraid to come and talk to you. And I was like, oh God, what's wrong? He goes, no, it's not what you think. He said, I can't explain this to you. I can only show it to you. And I said, okay. So he pulls up both of the MRIs, one from when he was 3 days old to when he was 3 months old. And he said, okay. And you can see it looks like two different brains. And he said, see how there's all this heterotrophia on this side, the neurons? And I go, yeah. He goes, do you see that on this side? And I go, no. And he goes, because they all moved to one little tiny spot on the right side of his brain, which is essentially like a scab you could peel off. Now, it was still causing seizures at the time, but they all grouped up together into one glob that you could surgically remove. And he said, that doesn't happen outside of the womb. I said, okay. He goes, do you see there's no corpus callosum on this side, the thing that connects the brain? I said, yeah. He said, do you see this full, perfect corpus callosum on this side? And I said, yeah. And he goes, that doesn't grow outside of the womb. And I said, okay. And he goes, see how there's no optic nerve on this side? And I go, yeah. He goes, do you see this full, beautiful optic nerve on this side? And I said, yeah. He goes, that doesn't grow outside of the womb. And I said, so I'm freaking out. I was like, I said, oh my God. He goes, so you're not angry with me? And I said, what do you mean? This is fabulous. This means we can fix the problem. We can have surgery that will correct. We take those neurons off and we're good to go. He goes, I was just afraid that you were going to read this and you weren't going to trust me anymore. And I said, why? He goes, because I thought you were going to think we were just wrong in the first place. I said, Dr. Salinas, was the first thing I said to you when you came and checked on me after you told us all the bad things. He goes, you said you weren't going to accept this diagnosis. I said, this is what we prayed for. This brings us a solution, and now we can fix him. And he's like, well, I'm so happy for y'all. I'm so happy you feel that way. And I was just so worried y'all weren't going to trust us anymore. And I was like, oh, y'all are my favorite people in the universe. Like, y'all love my son. Y'all have tried everything to fix him. And then after he left the room, of course, everybody's gone. It's 9:30 at night. Everybody's at home, asleep, getting ready for work. And I'm like, who am I going to talk to about this? This is amazing, you know. I said, but I felt that's another time that I pretty much heard God say, I told you this is going to be fine. You just wanted, and in the scheme of things, we waited 3 months. So many people still have, my cousin has a daughter who's 14 that's been having seizures since she was 6, and they don't have any end in sight. And she has the same team of doctors as we do because we referred her to them. But in the scheme of things, it was no time at all, but it felt like years when we were sitting there suffering through it. But I felt God say, you know, Wesley made scientists believe in Jesus. That was his purpose. And then I was humbled. Then I was like, oh my God, you used my son to bring people to Jesus? Then I was like, wow, this is super cool. And the next day, everybody, I mean, we became such good friends. I'm still friends with all these people to this day, even the ambulance drivers who brought us to the hospital came in my room. Everybody that had anything to do with him, the chaplain, they all came in my room the next day, and they're like, we had to come see the miracle baby. Like, what? This is crazy. And I was like, yep. Just told y'all we've been praying, did it? So one of his doctors, after he had his brain surgery, even his doctor because they transferred him to Memorial Hermann for that, because the neurosurgeon actually did surgery out of there. And he doesn't even have to see Wesley anymore, but he does just because he loves him. So we visit him every few months just because he loves Wesley. He's amazing. But his doctor from Women's came over to there, and she brought us a book that said, Because Jesus, and she was not a believer at all prior to meeting Wesley. And so he just changed the lives of so many people. And even this, when he was in surgery, he had a little teeny tiny Indian woman who was the anesthesiologist. And she came in my room the next day, and she said, you know, I just felt compelled that I had to come and tell you something. And I was like, what's up? And she said, I've done many, many surgeries of anesthesia for kids, for adults, for everybody. She said, because he was 3 months old, he was 13.5 pounds, you know, he was little. She said, I've never seen anybody in my life hold up as strongly as he did during that surgery. She said, I mean, his stats all stayed perfect. His blood pressure, his heartbeat, everything stayed perfect. She said, I've never seen anything like it. And I said, well, I had literally thousands of people praying for him all over the world.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, those prayers were heard. She said, I've never seen anything like it. So he just supernaturally touched so many people. And my friend Stephanie, and I have a picture of it. I'll have to send it to you, Lydia, so you can see it. My friend Stephanie, who's a very, very amazing, powerful, anointed prayer warrior. This is while he was already in surgery. She texted me about 4 hours in, and she goes, God gave me a vision this morning. Wesley, there was an angel whispering in Wesley's ear, telling him, you're going to be perfectly fine. You're going to be great. And I was like, that gave me chills. It gives me chills every time I talk about it because I saw it happen. I just didn't know that's what was happening. But we were in the room with him right before they're getting ready to take him back, and he's just looking at the wall, just giggling and smiling and cooing and talking. And we were like, what are you looking at? Who are you talking to? And we were just like, well, I'm just happy he's happy before he's going into this, you know. So we prayed over him. And then 4 hours later, and because I took a picture of him because he was so smiling and happy and laughing right before he's going into his brain surgery. And then she texted me like 4 hours later, and I said, oh my gosh, I saw it happen. I saw I couldn't see the angel, but I saw it happen. And it was just the coolest. So it went from anger, just horrible, depressed anger for like 3 months, to just so thankful that he used my son to make people believe in Jesus. And he's autistic, but he doesn't have seizures, so I'll take that all day. So he's perfectly happy and healthy and the sweetest, most lovely
He looks just like his daddy.
He does. It doesn't look like I had anything to do with it.
No, he's a spitting image of Scott. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm his favorite, so
Totally fine.
it works out.
Yeah, but
So I
autism,
got a little teary.
yeah.
Go
But
ahead, Mom.
autism, yeah. Well, I'm just saying autism isn't a life sentence in that
Mm-mm.
they're very special children.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and God uses them
he
uh,
does.
in many ways. And we do have a grandson that's a little autistic, and he's on the spectrum. So yeah,
Oh,
I
it's
remember
led
praying.
me.
I remember praying for your baby. Liddy would share
yes.
that, and I
Thank
thought,
you.
oh my goodness, I had not heard that story to this extent. So that was a
Yeah.
real blessing. April, thanks
I'm
for sharing
grateful
that.
for all their prayers.
Absolutely, yeah. So
It's led me to what I do now. I work in the special education department at a high school.
Yeah,
So I work with teenagers that are autistic on a daily basis. So I think it's good experience for me. It's taught me so much. Now I have a long way to go with patience. That is the thing that God has been working on me for my whole life. But it has taught me a lot of patience too, because you just don't have a choice. You have to be, because it's a learning curve. So
yes, absolutely.
Got all teary. I said, watching you go through that, like I said, as a woman, as a mother, I just that resilience that you showed, and I think for me, and I think obviously I think with your friends, like you didn't hide the anger, you didn't hide that stuff. I know we had complicated conversations about that, but I feel like you also just put so much faith in God, and that came out. But I think that it's okay to still be angry. Like I think,
he
you
can
can
take
have
it.
faith, but you can be pissed.
Yeah.
You know,
He can handle it.
Yeah, he can. My God's big enough for my temper tantrum at the moment.
He didn't care about. He's like, yeah, you're all right, girl.
Yeah, just be mad.
Yeah.
You know, but I think as a mother, like, and as a friend, watching you go through that was very, very scary and very, just probably for any mother, I would imagine.
I don't wish that on anyone.
Fix this for your child. You can't give them medicine. You can't do that. You have to rely on the doctors, and you have to rely on God. You have to, and if you don't believe in God, whatever, you have to rely on other people. And I would imagine that as a mother, giving that control up is probably very, very difficult.
It was the hardest thing about it.
Yeah. Like what was, just because again, this is about mothers and daughters, obviously, what was Connie like during all this time? I mean, obviously she's going to support you because I know your mother would never be like, April, you got this. By any means.
She and my dad both, they most of the time just had the kids. She actually she can't stand for any of the boys or Ruby to be in any sort of distress or pain. She couldn't really, it was hard for her to be around Wesley because she wanted to, and I don't have any ill will about that. I hated it just as much, but he's my son. I didn't have a choice. I had to take care of him, but it was hard for her to be around him because anytime she started having a seizure, she's very, 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 very tenderhearted. So anytime he would have a seizure, she would just start crying. Well, he was having seizures all day, every day. So if she was around him, she was just a basket case all the time. So it was hard for her to handle. And so, I mean, of course, she made up for all that time. Once he had the surgery and he was good to go, she made up for all that cuddle time, but she just couldn't handle it. And I don't blame her. I hated it every second, but it was miserable.
Wesley is what? Like 9?
He'll be 9 in July.
Gosh. And he's tall. Like
I'm sorry, I said June.
He's a tall kid too. I mean, I hadn't seen him since Christmas, I think, but he's tall.
Yeah, he's going to be big like his daddy. My poor other 2 boys, their dad is 5'7" and Scott 6'4". Wesley's going to shoot right past them. Poor babies,
sweet babies. Yeah, that's such a great. I mean, that's just a testament of, I think, motherhood and the challenges that come along with it. And I think I would imagine any mother who's had a child with any kind of illness or something like that, I would imagine it's a whole other form of strength and endurance, and just props to you.
Yeah,
props to you and all the other mothers who had to do that. Because, it's just,
it was tough. Definitely God pushed me through it because I just I can't imagine going through that having not been saved. I don't think I would have made it. Really, truly.
Yeah, you probably would have made it, because I think there's something about a mother that, you know,
Yeah.
once that child comes through, you're now like, okay, I'm in it for you, dude. Like, we're here.
Yeah.
And you would have done it. But I think the point at which you say, you know, where you said the doctor comes in and says a miracle, and you immediately are like, oh, I'm done being depressed. I know what this is.
Yeah.
That piece that you would be missing. You do the strength, but that piece that comes with the moment they say, hey, look at this. And you go, oh, I know what that is. That's God. I think we're done being depressed. We're moving on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was literally night to day. I remember the first night in the ICU. You know, I had to stay in the ICU for 4 or 5 days after the brain surgery. And the first night in the ICU with all those, he had 15 machines hooked up to him. But I just knew that's the first time I slept in 3 months. Solid. I didn't hear a beep. I slept in the room in that little tiny, you know, crap bed that they have in those rooms for like 4 hours straight. Didn't move. And the doctor came in a doctor came in the next morning, didn't see me sleeping over there, and the nurse was in there like changing his stuff, and the doctor goes, has the mom been in? And he goes, she's right there. And I was laying on the couch, and she goes, sorry, huh? She's like, how'd you sleep? I said, like a baby.
Yeah.
She's like, how? I was like, because I knew he was good. I knew I didn't have to worry.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the testament of who God is in this story, is that it's just that peace, you know, that passes all understanding, where he just shows up, and it's like you know, you believe it, you know it, you get it, and then you're going through it and you're doing the motions, but it's that instant relief, that instant peace that hits, and you go, oh, there we go. There we go. I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So take it out. So Wesley's doing great today. So he's hanging out, having with his brothers, and
he's
living his best life.
He's torturing his brothers for the most part. Okay. He is a little turkey, full of life, he's the happiest kid in the world. He's mostly nonverbal, but he has a device that he can talk with, and we're still believing that he'll talk one day. So we're not, but as long as he's had a seizure in 9 years. One.
Yeah.
They said that there's a chance that could happen when he was growing, and that's it. He's not had another one, and I don't think he will. But he's happy. He's healthy. They said when he had the surgery, they said that he might not ever be able to walk because it was going to make weakness on the left side. That kid does not sit down ever unless he's asleep. He is the most running around. He doesn't use his left arm very much, but he runs around like a crazy man all the time. So,
and you know, I remember when my nephew was born, and then there was the period where I don't know how many years, Mom, that he didn't talk, and he just didn't talk.
He talked late. Yeah.
It was like he just didn't talk, and I think one day we were just talking. I said, Mom, maybe he just ain't got nothing to say. Like, why? Where's this kid? And it's like a flip. At some point, the switch flipped, and this kid will talk you under the table, man. And make you feel real dumb because he's super smart.
Autistic kids are so smart.
So smart. And my son is 22, and I think a couple of years ago we were sitting at, Thanksgiving or Christmas all together at the table, and my son, grown man, sitting there by him, and he says, "Well, you want me to tell you some facts?" And my son goes, "Sure, tell me some facts." And so he starts rattling off this stuff, something about I don't even know, like a different country or space or something. And my son gets up after dinner. He's like, "Man, I ain't sitting by him no more. He makes me feel dumb." So I think
it's amazing
thing that they don't have anything to say till they have something to say, and then you hear it.
And that's going to Wesley. Then he's going to be like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. So that's great. And your other boys are doing great. And your husband, how was he like? How did he deal with all this? And how was he a support for you and you a support for him during this time?
He didn't deal with it well. He was. So he got saved just a few months before we got married. He wasn't saved when I met him. I was told he was, but he was not. So he, being a new Christian, he was very, very angry, just super angry the whole time. He didn't know how to deal with it. He had kind of his mom died when he was 9 in a car accident.
Mhm.
So he had kind of a rough upbringing. His dad, I think, just didn't really know what to do. So he had and I think he kind of took all that and like it was a pile on, like really like, and now my son is sick, like why, and he was very angry. And so that was tough in that I was dealing with Wesley being sick and trying to preach to him how everything's going to be okay. God's going to take care of it. And he just wasn't going for it.
Yeah.
But he, once we came through it on the other side, he, of course, was a lot lighter, just like me.
Yeah.
He was later on in life, in Wesley's life, he's apologized for how he acted during that time and and I get it, I mean, your son is sick. It's his first kid,
Yeah.
and he's super sick, and he just didn't understand why. And, once he was good and once life started being happy again, it was much easier, much better, but it was tough for sure.
Yeah. And your other boys, they're good. And everybody's just loving life. Sounds like you got some sweet boys.
Parker and
Raising
Reed
some sweet boys.
Yeah, they really are. Parker and Reed are healthy and smart and very sweet to their brother. Even though their brother is not sweet to them, he is a turkey. They've just, I mean, Parker is a lot like I was when I was his age, which was a real smart mouth. But on the other side of that, a way that I was not when I was his age, he's very affectionate. He will always, even in front of other adults, he will always give me a hug and say, I love you, Mom. And, I was never at his age. Don't touch me,
sons will wreck you, man. They'll tear your world up, and you are a different person with sons. You love your girls, but there's just a different.
I'm a mama bear for show. Like
wreck it.
Let some little girl break my son's heart. It's gonna be the last thing she ever does. I'm gonna be such an obnoxious mother-in-law. I can tell you that. I'm sorry. I had someone tell me, because me being a daughter with nothing but sisters, I have always favored my family with my kids, and I'm so scared of that for my boys. I'm like, I'm gonna have to be nice to my daughter-in-law so they'll let me see my grandkids, because I'm sure I was a nightmare to my mother-in-law because I was so. You just naturally, when you're a girl, you favor your parents for the most part. I mean, that's just how it is. Unless you don't have good parents, but I had, my parents loved my kids like more than they ever loved us, and I'm good with that. My kids are way cooler than me. But I dread that for when they're older. I'm
I'm gonna have to, sister. It is a legit fear
and be nice.
You're gonna have to share. You're gonna have to share.
Gonna have to be nice to my daughter-in-law.
The hardest thing with that is when they're dating and they bring home somebody and you immediately know this is a no.
No, that's a no for me.
Immediately no. Immediately no.
Reed
Reed
had his little 8th grade dance the other day, and he took a little girl, just the prettiest little girl, and she was so sweet and funny and talkative and just friendly and just so cute, and I loved her, which was weird. Like, Parker had a girlfriend who I just didn't like at all, but this little girl was just so cute and sweet, and Reed is also just so innocent and like shy and like just awkward with girls, and I was so proud of him for having asked her to go to the dance. And I mean, we got her a corsage and everything, and I picked her up and we took her to the dance, and it was just the cutest thing ever. And I was like, I know they're only in 8th grade, but if this one could stick around, we could be cool. I like her. If you could just hang on to this one a long time.
Yeah, I will say it is sweet seeing them not affectionate, but being around the right girls, like how sweet they can be and how and you think, I'm doing a good job. I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So April, like as far as like what's next in your life, said you've gone back to work, you've got your mom living with you and stuff like that. And one of the things that we like to ask people is like, what do you want your legacy to be when it comes to your family and your future and things like that? What would be on your headstone kind of thing?
Yeah. The biggest thing I know that I want my boys to remember about me or tell other people about me was that they could see Jesus in me. Even when I'm being a mean mom, getting on to them. I hope that that's the biggest thing they see in me. I hope that I'm a big example of that. Because after God healed Wesley, he very clearly told me my mission was to pray for other people. So I'm very big on that. And I want my boys to know that. I want my boys to tell people that about me. That's what I want my biggest legacy to be. And I want them to, look back and think, man, she did whatever she had to do to make sure we were taken care of. I want them to, I don't care about so much that's a lie. I do care about it now because they're old enough to know that mom is the one that does the heavy lifting as far as they go. But I want them to look back and see, she really loved us so much that she did whatever she had to do to make sure we had everything we ever needed. We didn't want for anything, all that stuff.
You are a prayer warrior. Like, I don't know, Marcus' mom, I don't know if you're friends with April on Facebook or not, but like every Sunday night, she'll post something on Facebook. It's like, give me your prayer request for the week.
Yeah.
And like, she knows what I'm praying for right now. So like, I don't ever put anything on there or whatever, but if you see people, like, just tell her, like, this is, or whether they pray on there or not, like, she's a prayer warrior. And I love that about you.
I love that. I love doing it. I really feel a pull all the time. People probably get on people's nerves when I'm like, hey, how can I pray for you? How can I pray for you? I tell my DoorDash people that when they drop stuff off. So I don't care. I'm not going to disobey what God wants me to do. So if I get on your nerves, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
We'll pray about it.
Yeah. Pray about it.
Just don't be sorry. Just don't be sorry about it. Powerful test of April.
Yeah. I love telling that testimony. Anytime anybody asks about it, I'm like, well, sit down because we're going to be here a minute.
Yeah, let's talk about Wesley's brain.
Yeah. I love it because people are just, it's so unbelievable, but it's true.
I tell people the story. Like, I've told my in-laws the story about Wesley. I've told random people. But, when we talk about random, you can on rabbit holes about things. People have weird medical things. So I was like, well, my friend April's
listen to this. Yeah.
And he had these things, and I don't know, they've got a fancy medical word, but it's all right here. And then they moved, and they don't move, and then the doctors could go get it, and then that thing that the brain it moved back. And I tell the story as if I know anything about these big medical words because I've seen every episode of Grey's Anatomy. I'm like, well, I'm gonna tell you, it's a beautiful day to save lives, and they did. So I tell that story that I told probably a dozen people random about this little kid in Houston. Yeah. Called Wesley, and they even wrote it up in, was it the Chronicle that did the big write-up?
Yes.
Or was it? And they didn't talk about Jesus. I remember you talking about, like, they kind of edited out the Jesus part.
Yeah.
But
and the girl that wrote the article, I told her, she emailed me the final edit, and I said, you didn't talk about Jesus. She goes, I just want you to know they wouldn't allow me to, but I believe that Jesus healed your son. And I was like, well, at least we touched you.
Yeah.
But, they published
you can read it and know. You can, like, when you read the article, you're like,
and I had so many people because they published it on Memorial Herman's website as well, the whole article. And there was a thing at the bottom I commented on it somewhere and said, thank you, Jesus, and somebody said, I think you mean thank you, doctors. I said, Jesus brought me those doctors. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you, Turkey. Yeah. And he did. He brought me the best doctors in the universe. I mean, they're to this day, I love all their family to us. I mean, they're wonderful people. And I'm like, I love my doctors. They're wonderful. They're amazing. They're brilliant. But God brought me to those people. Texas Children's turned me away, which brought me to this wonderful, beautiful place with all these wonderful, beautiful people. So it was still God.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's still God. It's still
Mhm.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your like, I know, I mean, obviously Connie isn't here to talk, about her journey or whatever, but is there anything, I don't know, what's Connie up to right now?
She is working her
She's
full
got a
time.
couple jobs, yeah.
Yeah, she's been in accounting for 40 years. So she still does that, but she wants to retire in February of next year. So she's been working part time at HEB as just a cashier, which actually pays really well.
Listen, that's a backup plan for me. I'm not
Listen,
kidding.
she's paying stuff off so that when she does retire, she'll be pretty well off. But also we get a 10% VIP discount for her working there, which is amazing right now. And every couple of months you get a 25% discount. So in July that's coming up. But the other day we had that 25% discount. I think it was around Easter. It's only for a week. Every few months that it's 25%. And I had a huge grocery bill. It was like $300 because it was like I was out of everything. And I go up there and I give him, so she has a VIP card and then you get to give it to one family member. Well, I buy the most groceries, so she gave it to me. And I scanned my card and it took $48 off. And the manager goes, dang. I was like, yes. I said, even when you retire, Mom, you can never stop working here.
Walking that red carpet at HEB. Thank
really.
you.
Yes. She said, that's the best gift I ever gave you. I said, it really is. It really is. I have two teenage boys and a 9-year-old and a husband. So I'm the only one that eats like a normal person at the house. Everybody else is always hungry. So, but yeah, she's, she's with us every night. She's very helpful with the boys. If, there's something I have to drop and do, or if I want to go to the grocery store alone, she'll stay with Wesley. The other two are teenagers. They are self-sufficient, but, Wesley can't be left to his own devices for too long. But
what would you say is her, like, from you as her daughter, what is her legacy to you as y'all get into like I said, she's coming up on retirement, your kids are getting older, y'all are you're going into the next phase of your life. What, 'cause y'all been through a lot together. Y'all been through a lot of stuff family wise. What is her legacy as far as you're concerned?
I think my legacy, or what I see rather, is in her is, she's always put us before herself, and always, even now, still does put us before herself. And I want to do the same thing for my kids, always.
That's a beautiful legacy, I think, because you hear a lot of stories about mothers who don't do that, mostly in Lifetime movies, but and then some real life stuff, obviously. But
no, because that's one of the things that made me want to do this is listening to other podcasts and hearing people say, like, I didn't have this, I didn't have this, I didn't have this.
Yeah.
Or they were horrible, they were mean, they were this, and I'm thinking,
it's
good
crazy.
Lord, what is happening?
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is it was the redemptive story. So there are so many people that don't have that. So it is nice to not only have what's, and none of us are perfect, but you talk about your mom having to deal with, certain, things in marriage and making certain choices and things like that. But it is nice to hear not perfect stories that have that redemption in the end.
That turned out amazing.
Yeah. That's just every day to day is just fulfilling and amazing and a blessing, and all of that even though, and I think part of that is knowing our mother's story, knowing their background. Like you said, you think about your dad's upbringing and your mom's upbringing and your husband's upbringing and your own upbringing. Knowing that history helps, I think, I don't know, I guess it's that thing where it just helps acceptance and you to move on, to lose bitterness, to lose anger, because you have every right to be angry. Your dad and your mom, and the fact that you can laugh about it.
Yeah, totally. Now it's all like, at least I'm so proud of where I am today based on all of that mess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
It
the
is.
fact
It's
that
funny.
you can tell your dad, I'm waiting on my 23andMe to hit, man.
Yeah.
And you can laugh about it. That's
I am.
fantastic.
And he laughs about it too. He's
Yeah.
got a good sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
So, but I am. I'm wait till part 2. Go ahead
Yeah.
and say part 2 is coming
Listen,
because it is.
part 2's coming, baby.
And I'm gonna bring
Meet
my
my brother.
Those
like,
DNA matchups.
That's
Oh my
our
God,
next
I
prayer.
said-
Lord Jesus, please reveal April's brother
Yeah.
because we know he's out there.
We know he's out there. I know he's out. I'm not. It's not. It's not a maybe. He's out there.
Oh, dear God. Fantastic.
I love.
Love that. Love that for you, April.
Yeah.
I
love
do.
it.
April, thank you so much for giving us all of it. Like giving us
Yeah.
all, not holding anything back.
Yes.
I
No,
love
I
that.
never do. Let me just tell you, I never do.
I was like, anything you don't want to talk about, we don't have to talk about. She's like, nope, let's do it.
It is
Love
out
it.
there.
Throw it on the
Yes.
table. I am
Yes.
here for it. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for trusting us
Yeah.
with that and trusting the people who are listening. Because
Yeah.
the other goal of this is to give other people's ears
Yeah. I hope it
something to
helps
listen
someone.
to and to hear.
Yeah.
You know, if one person hears, you know, maybe your brother's listening. I don't know.
Hey, hey, bro! I can't wait to meet you.
One person, you know, who's going through this with their parents or going through this with, you know, a child that's sick, just have that little bit of faith. So I thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate it so
Absolutely.
much. So
Yeah.
much. It makes it worthwhile.
We loved hearing
that.
Me too.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was a huge blessing, you know.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it really is. Well, thank you guys for listening to The Mother You Know this week. I know this, for me, this was a great episode, and I'm really glad we were able to schedule this time and that we were able to go through April's story. So we hope that you heard something that'll bring you back. Please don't forget to subscribe to The Mother You Know, The Woman You Don't on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to us. So if you could rate, like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is you do out there. Connect with us on all social media. Please feel free to reach out if you have a story. We would love to hear your stories too. We're really looking forward to building this community. So please, we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, April. Love you.
Thanks, April.
Bye. I love you.
Bye.